Hello, everybody, and welcome to another battle report. So, slowly getting my way through the world tour here. Too slowly, but see if we can step it up. So, at this point, I still find myself down in Louisiana with the one and only Lord Tremendous. And after he had rightly whooped up some Tomb Kings in game one, we re-racked and decided, hey, it's time for game two. So, let's get right into it. So in game two, he said he wanted to take on the rats, and he said to bring a good list. So I brought what I think is a decent list here. I wouldn't call it the hardest possible list, but it's certainly fun. So let's take a walk through it, kind of see what we got on the board here. Let's start with what I've got. So in the top left, we've got a Doom Wheel, we've got a Rat Pack, we got a big group of slaves with a Warlock Engineer up front. He's got the Brass Orb. Got a big horde of Storm Vermin up in the front of that. Got the Standard Bearer Chieftain. Got a Warlord on Warlitter. And we have a Grey Seer in there. Next on down, we got another block of Slaves with another Warlock Engineer. That one being an actual wizard and stuff who has something. Let's say Warp Lightning. Seems believable enough. Got another Rat Pack. Got the Hell Pit down in the bottom corner. Got a pair of Warp Lightning cannons in the back. You'll notice that I have scouted in two groups of Gutter Runners up in the top left, as he was nice enough to leave me some room. The Gutter Runners went down first, and then I think his scouts went down after. Like, I won the scout roll-off. So, and then my second group of scouts went back farther. And then he has another group of scouts over in the top left beside my Doom Wheel, which I'm not really afraid of. The scouts, if they charge the Doom Wheel, I'm pretty sure I'd grind them up, even if they somehow got me in the flank. But I don't expect the Doom Wheel to be there after the top one, because it's going to roll somewhere, hopefully more toward the line. Now, this isn't exactly the setup I would want. I was hoping to get the Doom Wheel into a slightly more advantageous position against, like, that Coven Throne or the War Kitty, but I am okay with it in this position. I figured it could sweep around and hopefully get in on the flank of something, or when he brings the War Kitty forward, I knew I had him vastly outranged, so I really have no need to go anywhere. So the Doom Wheel, I was thinking, was just going to sweep around and get into it. Right away, I knew I wanted the Hell Pit in reserve, and my big fear is that giant chunk of rock right there that's kind of in the way, that big impassable terrain. So if I try to move, then that's going to split my forces. My slaves will go wandering around, and possibly get outside the leadership bubble. Fortunately, like I said, when I summed this up, I knew I had Warp Lightning, 2 cannons. I've got plenty of ranged options here, and he has no range other than a small pack of archers at the back and the Casket of Souls. So I felt like he was under the weight to move toward me, so I thought I would try to use that rock as an advantage, make him split his forces up, use the Hell Pit to either come in on the flank or deal with whatever he sends around that side. Now, of course, he can ride through them, that rock, with his little spectral pony knights, but in the end, I'm not that afraid of it. If they do so and they charge way out, they're just going to get themselves killed by being far too out ahead in front of the rest of the force. So that was my thoughts at the top of the game. The Gun Runners are obviously there to take out the Casket of Souls, which is, to me, the big threat. Once that's done, they can just clean up archers, and then I was going to use them to go harass the bunker, which you can't really see, but it's hidden in the back. Obviously, on his side, besides the two groups of scouts, he's got his big giant block of skeleton archers, little pack of dire puppies. He's got a War Kitty. He's got his Black Knights. He's got the bunker with some wizards in there, a Coven Throne with a baby vamp, and you can just see him in the bottom right corner of the picture, a Spirit Host. There's the picture of that my Warlord sees from his vantage point, looking out at the enemy. He's very threatening. Look at him, just taunting those undead to come get him. Very scary. There's a picture of the left side of the board with my scouts. There's his center. And top of one goes to him, so he marches right up. He brings his knights up to where, and obviously what he wants to do there is he wants to take a charge through the rocks. At this point, his War Kitty is still a very long distance away, so I'm not too concerned about that. I think it's probably at least still a 12 on its charge, maybe an 11. If the cat comes in alone, my Warlord has a Potion of Strength and could actually probably pulp that thing out in one round, combined with combat res. If the knights come in alone into my Storm Vermin, I'm not really afraid of that. They will chopped up. The Storm Vermin themselves have the Razor Standard, so they're primed and ready to hack up a bunch of knights and turn their 2-up into a coin flip save. Other than that, he kind of just moves up appropriately, bringing stuff into range. You'll notice his scouts move right up in the face of my gutter runners to shoot them and just daring them to charge them. Not much happens during the magic phase, with one notable exception. He does get the casket off and targets my Doom Wheel, and I fail to dispel it, which was very disheartening. And the Doom Wheel blows up. He rolls out of the box. Not that you have to roll super high, but, I mean, the odds are the Doom Wheel takes 3 wounds on average from an effective casket. However, that does not happen. He rolls like a 15, and the Doom Wheel explodes fantastically. I believe the Rat Pack does end up passing its panic check, which I think that was nice. And the Casket of Souls does not jump. Or if it does, it jumps and kills like 1 rat or something silly. But either way, that is a shame. It wasn't a super vital part of my strategy, but it is one of the best toys in the army, and losing it at the top of 1 is disheartening. And already I'm starting to cloud over with the same luck as last time. But we'll see. We persevere, of course. So, my turn. I bring up the slaves, starting to get them ready, just to move up and block where appropriate. Bring the Rat Pack out to block the Black Knights, so even if he does decide to go for that long charge, it's just going to rocket them off into the slaves. They would still be in the slaves' front. It doesn't really look like it there, but we kind of measured out, and I kind of looked at where they would square up and go. And that seems to be the case. The Storm Vermin themselves don't really move anywhere. They don't need to. The Hell Pit, I turn him sideways and just kind of bounce him off the board edge because I want him to stay back, and he shouldn't go forward just yet. We've got plans for him. Over here, the gutter runners that are in front of the scouts say, yeah, sure, we'll charge you, and they go in because I am certainly not afraid of that fight. We will go first with a lot of poisoned attacks and mince up those guys. The other gutter runners scurry up around to try to poison shot down the Casket of Souls and blow that thing up. So, good stuff there. And that's kind of exactly what happens. They blow up the Casket of Souls. We deal mostly with the archers. I think we actually flub horribly. I mean, I win. Well, flub horribly is a bad thing to say. I think I only kill 4 of them, include with the crumble, which really that unit should have been deleted, but that's okay. Let's see. What else happens? Some other shooting goes around. I believe my Warp Fire Thrower toasts those doggies. You can kind of see the Warp Fire Thrower back there beside the Storm Vermin. It had tried to, just kind of shoot and see how far it could get, and I think I roasted some dogs. Other than that, we didn't really... My actual shooting was not super effective out of the Warp Lightning Cannons. They were somewhat disappointing in this game. On his turn, he attempts to charge with 2 things and fails both. He tried to charge with the Black Knights and failed, so they kind of stood where they were because their failed charge would have left them in the rock, which is illegal. He tries to charge with the War Kitty onto the slaves, needed maybe an 8 or a 9, and fails that as well. He brought in the dogs like he had declared both charges, and the dogs, of course, made it. So, probably not great. I think he made the dogs. Maybe they're just standing in front of me and we moved them too close. But let's say they charged. That seems believable. Meanwhile, and so that's kind of all that happens. Oh, you'll notice that also the Coven Throne, I'm sorry, that's not all that happens, not even close. The Coven Throne charged the slaves. I wasn't sure why, but that seemed a strange choice to me. I think maybe he was thinking he could just grind through them fast enough that by the time he got his knights in, he'd be able to flank my Storm Vermin. But the Coven Throne is going to not grind through those slaves very fast. And the Hell Pit is right there, ready to just smash that thing in the side. So that was a strange choice. Slaves are more than ready to take on a Coven Throne. Meanwhile, yes, I see. Okay, so the Gutter Runners did like 2 wounds to the casket, but then I blew up, overran. I guess I did kill those horse archers, and then overran or whatever, charged the Casket of Souls on my next turn. My other Gutter Runners scurry up away, 12 inches away. I've learned my lesson on that explosion. They bring themselves up into range to start poison slinging the War Sphinx because nothing kills giant stone statues like poison rocks. I've learned that from playing TK. And on my turn, Doom Rocket Boy shoots out to go up and Doom Rocket the Black Knights. Ah, yes, I'm the one who charged the Direwolves because now we're on my turn again. Boy, sorry, it's been a long time. So the only depressing part of my turn was as you can see, the hell pit over there in the corner was right in range to slam into the side of that Coven Throne. Yeah, he didn't do it. He needed like an 8. He got 6 inches out of 3d6 or something completely ridiculous. So that was very disheartening. That being said, the slaves are there. They're in the leadership bubble. They're going to be leadership 10 for years to come, so I'm not really worried. Comical side story, because I don't know if I have another picture showing it. I'm taking all of my attacks possible onto the baby vampire, and we kill him. So the vampire gets brought down by Skaven slaves. If there is a more ignoble end to a vampire, I do not know what it is. After shooting, it looks like that. The Doom Rocket goes off, kills 4 of the Black Knights, so I'll take that. I get 2 or 3 wounds through on the War Sphinx. Not enough to bring it down, and always a shame because you can always heal it back up. But hey, more damage to the War Kitty is good. Yes, there it is. Look at that dead vampire. He's not up top anymore. You know why? Because slaves killed him. So there you go. And now, in addition to Doom Rocketing the Black Knights, he is also chaffing up the Black Knights, and you can see the Rat Pack has fallen back to be sort of secondary chaff on the overrun. So, to his next turn, we go. Oh, and you can see, yes, I'm sorry, this is after combat. After combat, we blew up the Casket of Souls, and we, of course, killed the 2 dire wolves, because slaves might not be the best combatants in the world, but we can certainly take down 2 dire wolves. I believe I've also just started Warp Lightning Cannoning the crap out of his cat, and I keep overshooting and landing the big template right into the skeletons, so they are vastly depleted from Skaven overshooting. Yeah, you can see we've peeled about 2 ranks off on 2 overshots. All right, let's see what else happens here. So the Spirit Host kind of moves up there, sort of going to be getting in the way of my Hell Pit. I'm not sure why he didn't move it up farther to completely block my Hell Pit off, because right now my Hell Pit still has a charge, but that's where he brought it up to. I think he was hoping to get me in the flank, and he knew I didn't have Warpstone spikes, or he suspected I didn't, because whoever takes those. And I think he was hoping to get me in the flank and sort of win by combat res, because he knew I'd prioritize the Coven Throne. That might have been his sneaky plan. But I would have probably just moved it up, and, you know, that's probably not how that's going to go down, being that the Hell Pit is stubborn. And was actually within the leadership bubble there. But that's okay. The Black Knights have charged Mr. Doom Rocket. You can just see them there crushing into the Doom Rocket guy. So that's pretty funny. And I believe the kitty cat fails another charge. Again, this time he needed less. Like, let's say a 7 or a 6. I mean, it was not a big number. And he fails again. That cat just is... I guess the poison rocks really slowed him down. There's that combat. You can see that little Mr. Doom Rocket is not long for this world. And of course, now you might think, what happened there? Did he? That's a funny transition. What happened, of course, is that he does in fact kill the Doom Rocket engineer and overruns into the Storm Vermin. Again, 6 Black Knights into the Storm Vermin. This is not going to be a fight that lasts very long, especially with the Warlord up there. He does have 1 knight that can attack my Grey Seer, but with only 1 knight, my Grey Seer will certainly live through that. Because he has to, because math is a thing. And the Hell Pit does get into the side of the Coven Throne. Finally, it manages to cover the last 3 or 2 inches. So, way to go there, lazy machine. And what has happened is I've sort of reoriented the slaves. As you can see, they've shuffled. And their engineer has popped out, and this is the guy with the brass orb. It's not really Ikit Claw. It's the Ikit Claw model, but that's just because I love that model and wanted to use him as my Warlock engineer. So he's jumped out behind, outside of the arc of the War Kitty, and is prepping to drop a brass orb right on that Initiative 1 statue. Meanwhile, the other gutter runners you can see now have moved up and are ready to execute plan, throw poison rocks en masse. After combat, yeah, stuff happened. So we're into his turn now. And you can see the Black Knights were shredded, because that's what's going to happen there. They did manage to take, pretty good number of Storm Vermin with them, but not enough before they all went poof. The the Hell Pit, and Slaves, just when they still had enough ranks left. Still just Leadership 10. Hilarious. The Hell Pit managed to, of course, crush the Coven Throne and move up to there. The Spirit Host charges it in the butt, which is fine, because, that's fine. It doesn't matter. The Spirit Host certainly isn't going to hurt the Hell Pit, but he might pin him there for a while. Fortunately, I've got just enough ranks of Slaves left that as long as I can reform after combat, I can just shuffle down, and then the Slaves will be right into the flank of the Spirit Host, and that will spell the end of that on combat res alone. You'll notice the distinct lack of Kitty. That is because the Brass Orb went up and out, and like Jordan, that was nothing but net. That's a solid dunk out of the Warlock Engineer, who had a direct hit, and the Kitty Cat promptly failed his Initiative 1 save and went into the hole. So on my turn, we move up. He's got basically these 2 units left, and it's time to sort of close the net. The Warlock Engineer goes and runs and hides around the other side of the rock because he's done his thing now, so why not go run and preserve his points? The Hell Pit actually does manage to reform, and the Slaves come up into the flank. The Storm Vermin and the Slaves and everything just kind of moves up all together. The Rat Pack is coming up around, just daring those archers to charge them because, believe me, I will, if they were to charge, I would absolutely charge that Warp Fire Thrower into the regular skeletons just to get a charge off on his Archer Pack with his 2 wizards in there. I've been sort of plinking, I think, shots away, or skeletons away from his bunker with my Gutter Runners back there, but, he keeps getting at least augment or 2 off a turn and regrowing them. There's not a lot of skeletons that are dying, and I'm not really too concerned about killing them, so it's all fine. Warp Lightning Cannons continuing to do basically nothing. They were pretty worthless this game. I believe there were actually multiple misfires. They just all turned up 6. So it was the best case. It was the best worst case for me. But, hey, whatever. So that's after shooting of some kind. I think we were pretty effective this round. We finally bring all the Gutter Runners together and pulp out all those archers. There was probably, I think I did trace at least one of the Warp Lightning Cannons through as well, and left 1 skeleton archer alive, and that little bastard is going to come back and be a real problem later. But for now, there's his one, I think that's probably the champion left. The wizard was also left 1 of them. I killed his level 1 wizard. His level 4 sadly did survive and managed to go boot scoot boogie over into the big skeleton block on his turn. You'll notice that on his turn he turns around, but 1 skeleton archer and the other skeletons just sort of prep up and get ready. We clearly blow up the Spirit Host and just kind of reposition, and then I managed to, then some stuff happens. So here's where the humor starts. He gets Curse of Years off on my Storm Vermin. Cool. I set the card behind him. He kills some number on the initial cast. Let's say 8. That seems reasonable enough. And he then moves up that single lone freaking skeleton to interdict my Storm Vermin. Fine. I set these 2 bright neon green templates behind the card so that on my turn, I have all these things pointing at Curse of Years to remind me to dispel it. Guess what I don't do? Remember to dispel it. Because I'm a bad player. Meanwhile, he charges into my slaves, hoping to basically get them done and dead before my Storm Vermin can get in there. And if I keep forgetting to dispel Curse of Years, he's not that wrong. And I believe this is actually the final shot I've got of the game. What happens is, you can see there, I work down his skeletons. I mean, he's in combat with just slaves, so we're just shooting into them like crazy. The Warp Fire Throwers even shooting from an inch away, overshooting, of course. But the Gutter Runners fire in, the Warp Lightning Cannons fire in. Everything is just pounding into that unit and just, severely reducing his numbers. He does eventually go into some kind of ranks out of Horde format, but it's just not enough. He doesn't kill slaves fast enough. The Storm Vermin, however, do get whittled down enough that I basically don't want to risk the charge. He has 1 unit left, this unit of skeletons with his characters. And although certainly it's a big block of points, I basically have my entire army, sans 1 Rat Pack and a Doom Wheel. So I felt like that's good enough. No reason to risk death. And we called it right there. And it ended up being a pretty cataclysmic win for the Skaven. I lost, let's say, 173 points. Sounds about right. And he lost everything except that unit of big brick of skeletons, his Tomb King, and his level 4. Which, hey, still isn't bad. There's probably a Necrotect in there too. Why not? But still not too bad. All in all, a very successful game by the Skaven. It's a shame that I'm such a bad player and cannot remember to dispel Curse of Years. Otherwise, a flank charge into that unit certainly would have ended it for good. But that's all right. Still a very fun game. Game 2 down of 3 with Lord Tremendous and 4 at his store. It's a great store. And so next up, we have an incredibly fun game where I bring out the Tomb Kings again against some stunties. So look forward to that. But for now, that's all of that. Obviously, I don't need to say it. No matter what game you're playing, Lord T, you're always my homie, and I will play in any game. He and I have actually been talking about Malifaux a lot lately because I am a model whore, and they do have beautiful models, and I could paint up a crew in a week, let's be honest. But I look forward to meeting him up at some con sometime in the near future and playing any game that he's currently playing with him. He's a great guy, and this was certainly an awesome amount of fun. So thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Oh, there you go. There's the last shot. I'm sorry. Yes, me pointing out again that I'm stupid. That's the last shot.